Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind any audiobook narrators out there who are listening about my monthly audiobook narrator workouts. I limit these to only 5 participants per workout so we can do a deep dive into each narrator's piece. Each participant brings a 2 to 3 minute audiobook piece to work on, and you perform your piece and receive feedback from me, but also from the other members of the workout. It's an hour and a half, and it's a great opportunity to hone your audiobook narration chops. It's open to all experience levels. We've had people on the narrator workouts that have had no titles to people that have had hundreds of titles. So it really doesn't matter what experience level you're at. It's just a safe space for you to share with others and level up your talent. The cost at the moment is $75 per workout. We meet over Zoom. If you want to be added to the mailing list, just drop me a line at mlenzvoice@gmail.com. That's mlenzvoice@gmail.com. Mail list subscribers get first dibs on the spots before I announce the workouts on social media, and they do fill up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, let me know. Also, be sure to give me a follow over on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, where I'm very active. If you haven't already, I talk about my journey into the VO and audiobook industry on my social media, and I'd love to connect with you there. All right, so on today's episode, my guest is Tanya Eby. Tanya is the voice of over 1,400 books from publishing houses such as Audible, Brilliance, Blackstone, Dreamscape, Penguin Random House, Podium Entertainment, Tantor, and more. She specializes in mystery thrillers, nonfiction, women's fiction, and comedy. And since she's done over 1,400 books, I think she's probably touched on pretty much every genre that's out there. She has received awards from Audiophile Magazine, Sovas, and the Audies. Tanya is also an author, and she has written a memoir, Gothic novels, a cookbook, and romance titles. So she is very busy, and she's an incredibly creative person. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad we connected. And I'd love to start by just asking you to share with our listeners your journey into the audiobook world. You obviously have had a prolific career. What drew you to audiobooks, and how did you get started?
So I've been in the business for a really long time. I think I started like in 1998 or 99. I was doing some radio commercials. I was a double major, theater and English at college, and I was doing some local commercials, and I heard about an audiobook company that was close to me, and that was Brilliance Audio. And after recording a commercial, I asked if they would record some demos for me, and they did, and I sent them in on a CD to Brilliance. And then I never heard back from them. And I got really irritated because I thought I was awesome. And so I called them and said, why haven't you hired me? Which you should not do. Which I was like so many wrong things about that whole thing that I did. But they actually cast me in my first book from the voicemail that I had left. Because they liked my voice and it fit a book that they were casting right then.
That's a little serendipity right there, isn't it? That's amazing.
Right. So, and that's the thing with this is that there is so much that is timing. And there's so many talented people, but that's the one thing that I think is universal, that you have to be prepared in case the timing is right.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, was ACX a part of your original journey? I know so many of us, that's where we kind of cut our teeth and started.
Yeah, so I think I'd been in the industry. I was recording in studio at Brilliance Monday through Friday, 8:30 until 3 p.m. And that's how I got my first half of the titles. So I think I've been doing that for about 10 years while teaching at an art college. And at that time is when ACX popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I decided to try building a home studio because I noticed that technology was changing and that there were some shifts. And then also there were some issues with Brilliance that was happening that I wanted more clients. So yeah, I did. That was how I got my home studio. was by trying to audition for ACX, and I did get work really early on, um, recording for them and then producing my own books and productions, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know back in the late night, I got started in the industry probably somewhere in around 2007, 8. And
Hmm.
even at that point, a lot of people were going into studios to
Yep.
record voiceover work. And it was kind of a new thing to have a home recording studio. I remember talking to a fellow voice actor who was successful regionally in the area where I live. And I remember talking to her about this idea of a home studio. And she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I go into the studio to record." I'm like, "I don't know. I think that this is probably going to be what people are going to want to be doing in the future. Not that I was some prescient, uh, soothsayer or something, but I just had an idea that that's where we were headed. And I decided to invest money in a studio. I'm suspecting that she eventually did as well. But that was
Hmm.
around that turning point, was that early
Yep.
2000s where people started
Exactly.
going into their own studios and
Hmm.
became more efficient for everybody. But back before then, in the days of CDs, you wanted to record something, you were going into into a production company studio,
Exactly. Yeah.
a whole different world. And because of that, I think it really did explode the industry in terms of opportunities for people. So being able to go on ACX and set up a profile for free and audition for free, that just opened up a whole world to people that otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to do it.
And one of my big hurdles in this career is that I live in Michigan. Um, and so I didn't have the benefit of being on one of the coast where all the studios are, LA or New York. I did happen to live by Brilliance, so that was very lucky. But I knew if I wanted other work that I wasn't going to be able to go to their studio, so I had to offer something else. So yeah, that was life-changing, the home studio.
In the beginning, when you first decided, so you had that experience with Brilliance, you're like, wait a minute, this is something I think I want to do. What was
Hmm.
the process of really diving in to explore it, to potentially doing it on a full-time basis? Because a lot of people that I talk to, they're learning about audiobooks, they're dabbling in audiobooks, they
Mm.
like to make it a career, they're just not quite sure how to do that. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, so for a long time, I was a professor of writing at Kendall College of Art and Design, and I was not tenure track, but I was full time. And I love storytelling. You can tell from all of the genres I write and record that it doesn't really matter to me what it is. I just like stories. So I was teaching, and in the morning, I would go to the studio, record, go to work. Then, after I was done teaching, I would go back to the studio and record. And it was really quite difficult. And then the college made my choice for me because they cut all non-tenure track positions and then offered us positions back, but as adjuncts with no insurance and at half the rate that we were making. So at that point, I decided this is an opportunity to leap. And that's when I went into full-time narration, um, and gave it a go, and it gave it a go, and it worked. But a lot of people, I think it does require that jump where there's fear, and you're worried about scarcity, but uh, you have to, there'll come a point where you either do it or you don't.
The exciting thing is that at some point, sometimes decisions are made for you, right? So
Right.
when you're on the fence and you're thinking about it, and then something like that happens, a life event, you're like, okay, that's my sign, right? This is my opportunity. I'm going to take it. And everybody's journey obviously is different, and everybody individually will know when the right time is to make that leap.
Yeah.
Um, and it's different for everybody. But the fact that we now have access to things like ACX is a great opportunity for a lot of people. When you started when you started exploring ACX and started booking some titles and producing your own, because on ACX you do have to fully produce your own titles,
Hmm.
that's the expectation. How did you go about connecting with other production companies and publishers, because ultimately that's the goal for all of us in this industry. Is at least my journey was started on ACX and then started to reach out and then started connecting with producers and publishers and then started getting work from them, because then when you're in that world, you don't have to fully produce them. Your responsibility is to be the narrator, unless
Yeah.
you choose to do that, but you don't have to. And that's obviously, from most narrators' perspective, that's what we want to do. We just want to be able to tell stories and let the
Right.
experts who know how to proof and edit and master do their thing. And what was that transition like? How did you got initial traction with Brilliance, but
hmm
then all the other publishers and producers you've worked with, what was that like? How did that journey evolve?
As you're talking, my brain was thinking of an image, and I might forget the original question, so you might have to remind me.
I'll bring it
But
back if I need to.
okay, so I'm a Michigan girl, and I was thinking about building a snowman. So you start with a little ball of snow, and then you push it, and as you push it, it gathers more snow and gradually gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So that has been my experience of audiobook narration in this career. Um, each each problem that came that I had to solve. So when I was on ACX, I do not do post-production. I don't have the brain or space or patience for it. So when I got my first book on ACX, I knew that I had to hire someone. So then I had to talk to engineers that I knew in town, and then they connected me with engineers outside of the Brilliance system that I hired. So I met them that way. And then on the next production, I had another problem where I had to find somebody else. And so that's how all of this has just gradually built. And then I will say too that going to conferences um, and meeting people
hmm
was transformative for the career.
Definitely. I mean, my own journey from going from the ACX world to working with producers was at a conference, at an APAC conference. And
Yeah.
back, I think, in 2018, 2019,
hmm
when I had gone full time, I'd sold my business and moved into VO narration full time
hmm
about 8 years ago now. And the went to an APAC, and that's where I met a producer, a casting director from Tantor. And
Yep.
that changed everything
Yeah.
because then I got into the Tantor recorded books, I'm sorry, RB Media world. And those who
hmm
don't know, RB Media is the umbrella company, and it has a lot of different companies underneath it: Tantor, Highbridge, Ascent, Christian Audio, now Dreamscape. And so getting into that world then allows you to potentially be cast for all of those companies. And it's a place, I think RB Media, correct me if I'm wrong, probably produces more books than anybody in the world. I
hmm
think they're the largest producer of audiobooks from a volume perspective. And that's a big leap for a lot of people to get into that world. And some people never do, and some people do more quickly than I did or more quickly than you did. But the conference is where it allows you to meet producers and publishers. The specific purpose of the conference is to bring you together, to have a chance to
Right.
meet face to face and learn. And was invaluable to me. I'm sure it was invaluable to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Crazy, crazy
hmm
how things can change like that. I remember getting that first book and sending the email out to the casting director, and I think it was like on a Wednesday, and then Friday I got an offer to do a book. And I
Oh
remember
my
going
goodness.
into my car, I had to go somewhere, and I just like let out this big scream, like
Yeah.
I was just you know so elated to have that
hmm
opportunity, and then it also allowed me to join the union, which
Right.
because they were union producers, so that opportunity was huge as well for those of us who freelance, being able to get insurance through the union and all those things are important.
Yeah, and for me, the goal with each client, I think of each client like getting on a treadmill. Um, and that's why you want to have different clients. So like if you can get on the Tantor treadmill, you'll get recurrent work. And then you get on HarperCollins treadmill and you get recurrent work from them. So when somebody is light on work, you're getting it from somewhere else, and then you build your snowball or whatever, your diverse portfolio. That's how I did it too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did as well. And
Yep.
there are places like AudioFile Magazine, um, the Audiobook
You're
Publishers
Kirkus now.
Association, now
Yeah.
Kirkus, right?
Right.
Um, the Audiobook Publishers Association,
hmm
Professional Audiobook Narrators Association, PANA. There are
Right.
organizations that I think are really important to be involved in, not only for the support that we offer one another as narrators, but also because that is another watering hole where people that can hire you exist. So you can do searches on those websites and you can find casting directors and producers at these various places and you can email them and you can
Mhm.
send them samples. And, that's an important piece of what you and I do as well. Because look, I've done, a little over 400 audiobooks. You've done over 1,400. But I suspect that both of us, I know I can only speak for myself, I'm always hustling. I'm
Yes.
always reaching out and making contact. I have never rested on my laurels. I don't think any of us ever can or should. Has that been your process as well?
Well, yeah, in fact, we met in a class online, and I think people were quite surprised when they hear about how many books I've recorded that I would be in a class. But I'm still learning. I'm trying to stay relevant. I want to keep pushing myself. And there's no college for audiobook narration. You just learn by doing it.
Maybe we should start one.
Yeah, right. And so I learn a lot from watching other people, and I find it really fun too. Um, yeah. So I'm not resting on my laurels, but people think that when you reach a certain level, that work is just going to come to you. And I think that's true for maybe three people in the industry. But you would be surprised at the A-list narrators who are also constantly hustling for work. That's just part of the gig.
It is. And I think some people do get that impression that once you get to a certain level, you just sit back and just people just want you to narrate for them. And there is a certain level of that, but only because you develop relationships with casting directors and producers who
Right.
know that you're good at what you do, that you're reliable, that you deliver your files on time. The number one complaint that I've heard from all producers that I've talked to is the narrators are the rate limiting step, is narrators not delivering files on time,
Mhm.
narrators ghosting the producer. And I think
Right.
to myself, I would never do that. I'm like, can't even imagine that a narrator would have that opportunity and have that be the experience. I understand there are definitely things that happen where you have to reach out to the producer and say, look, I'm sick. I can't record this book in the time frame that we agreed to. But that should be few and far between. I mean, you've got to be, if you're
Right.
consistent, you do good work, um, you deliver your files on time, then you will get rehired
Mhm.
because that's what's most important to them because they're all on a deadline too.
Right. And it causes, I've also served as a casting director. So a narrator stops communicating or ghosts or is late, it affects your job directly because you trusted this narrator, but then it affects your entire team. And then the team is affected because they have to go back to the publisher or whoever hired them and tell them why everything is late. It's extremely stressful. And I will tell you that companies do keep lists of people that are problems,
Hmm.
and it does weigh into decisions. There's not a blacklist or anything, but it will, if it's down to a couple of people and they know this person doesn't communicate and is late and this person is awesome and communicates, they'll go with the communicator.
Let's talk about the casting process because I've done
Yeah.
a little bit of casting myself for some audiobooks and which I love doing that.
Yeah.
What's that process like? How did you get started doing that?
I got started because I had my own publishing company for a while, but I realized I didn't like all of the stuff with publishing with contracts and payments, and I didn't like that. What I really enjoyed was casting. So I worked for Elgin Productions for a little bit,
Hmm.
and then later I was hired in at Dion Audio, and then after I left Dion, I went to Dreamscape.
Hmm.
Um, and I just it's just using a different part of my brain. Um, and I find it really satisfying. And by that point, I had narrated enough books that when you pick something up, you know exactly what to look for in terms of how to cast it. You start to hear people in your head that give you a suggestion of what direction to go.
Hmm.
And it's a fun puzzle that I really, really enjoyed.
And it's nice when you have that network of people you can reach out to where you can
Right,
get the narrators that you want. And it's always fun to find somebody new as well when you're in the casting world.
right.
I had a cast a book recently that was a mild Southern Irish accent,
Mm,
could absolutely not have any hint of British. And
hmm
um, and there were a few people that immediately came to mind. They weren't available. So we had to dig a
hmm
little deeper and had to find and I had to go through my contacts and reach out to different people that I knew and ultimately have found a narrator whose voice the author absolutely loves and is going to be narrating it for us in this coming month and next week. So it's it's a fun process. But like you said, it's like a puzzle that you have to put the pieces together.
Right. And it also gave me a great perspective from being a narrator, to take some of those no's less personally, because I saw how many times I had like five great auditions, and there was someone I thought for sure was going to get it, and they went with someone else.
Right?
And there's no reason. It's just a personal preference. So it did take off some of the burn, um, of those no's that we get a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's the life that we live, right?
Hmm.
There are a lot of no's before we get yeses, and I think that it was hard to for me to email the couple of people who gave great auditions,
Right?
and it's hard because I know what it feels like to get that email,
Exactly. We've gone
and
in another direction.
yeah, I mean we've all gotten that email, and
Yep.
I felt bad being the one that have to send it, and I really meant what I said when I said that the author really loved your audition. They just in this case they just wanted an older voice, somebody that matched the author's age more.
Right.
So what had nothing to do with their performance. They all did great performances.
Right.
It's just that that was the personal preference of the author. So that's just a lesson learned for, especially for narrators that are new to the industry who may be listening, is that don't take it personal. Don't take it personal.
Hmm.
9 times out of 10, it comes down to nobody thinks your audition was bad.
Right.
They heard a voice in their head and the voice that they heard was somebody else and it just wasn't you. That doesn't mean that you're a bad narrator. Doesn't mean you're not going to book more work. It's just that it wasn't the voice they wanted for that title. And
Hmm.
makes us sleep a little easier at night knowing
Yeah.
that. So speaking of master classes, because we both have done them, and
Hmm.
those master classes are intense. Usually, there's at least 20 people on these calls. We get to record our piece for 2 to 3 minutes, and then we get critiqued by either the host and or the producer or casting director that may be on with the host. Uh, what what's that experience been like? I don't think you ever, no matter how many titles you do, I don't think you ever aren't nervous. Are you? I'm always nervous, a little bit.
I'm always nervous. Are you saying I wasn't nervous?
No,
I was
I don't know.
nervous.
I'm assuming you were, but I just wanted to
Oh
see if you
yeah,
were.
very nervous. Because everything I record is by myself. And then also with no feedback. The only feedback I get is if I get another gig. And I still don't know what I did right. So going into a class is it's very scary and it's very vulnerable. And then I come in with a certain number of titles, so people have expectations, or they read my
Mm,
Substack and they think I'm going to be, so I feel pressure to be really amazing, even when I'm experimenting and trying to push myself. So that can be very scary too. But I also got great feedback, and it forced me to take time to work on my craft. Whereas I don't think there's anything else that will force me to work on it except when I'm actively in the booth.
yeah, I know that the purpose of those master classes is to try to stretch ourselves a little bit, to try to bring some pieces that are going to challenge us, even though we have a casting director or a producer sitting in front of us. We want to be great, but I've had to force myself to view it as I'm not here to be great for this producer. If that happens, that's a bonus. But I want to learn and I want to get feedback because how am I going to get better if I don't get that feedback? So I've
Right.
absolutely had to lean into that vulnerability and had to just let some emotions get out there on some of these reads. And it's been very cathartic for me as an actor.
Yeah.
And and the feedback's been positive. Even when you get level ups, you realize that I'd rather go into a master class and have 5 or 6 things that they've told me I need to work on than go into a master class and have them go, that was amazing. I have no notes for you. The second one feeds your ego. The first one helps you grow. And I think we
Right,
need to make sure our mindset is there,
right.
that we need to grow. And I think yours is.
I think so.
But I agree with you that that expectation thing is big, because
hmm
people hear 1400 like, oh, Tanya, oh my gosh, what's she doing
Right,
here? You
right.
know?
And the first one I went to, I was a little embarrassed even to tell people. Um, but then I just decided, you know what? I'm a narrator too. I'm also a student. I sometimes I'm a teacher, sometimes I'm a student.
hmm
And in this space, I get to be a student.
No, good for you. I was really happy to see you there, and it was impressive and also edifying, I guess maybe is the right word, to see
Mhm.
you being there, saying, "Look, hey, look, I don't care how many titles I've done, I'm still want to learn."
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, I think people are shocked by that, but I think there's a lot of I wish there were a little more opportunities for people who have 200 and above credits. I think a lot of the industry is geared towards new people, which is great. We want to support and train and encourage people. But there's a lot of us that do this, have been doing this professionally. And casting directors change as the career goes on. So you're always having to meet new people. So I would like there to be some more opportunities for established narrators as well.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely true because you hear casting directors come in, especially younger people, a lot of times that those are younger people that come into those roles. And as you said, they kind of move on and move up. And there seems to be an eagerness to find that new voice, right? That
Right.
that the one that nobody else found. Like there's probably some street cred you get for saying, "Hey, I found it. Where'd you find that voice?" Yeah, I know
Yeah.
he or she's only done like 4 books, but they were amazing. But yeah, those of us who've done hundreds of books, we're amazing too. Come on,
Right.
give us some love. Give us
We're
some
new to
love.
somebody.
Of course. Yeah, of course. We're always meeting new people and new casting directors. But you also, I mentioned in the intro about the smaller workout that I do, and we talked before we started recording about the reason I do that is because those master classes are great, but since there's so many people on there, you get to perform, but that's it. You don't hear feedback from anybody else other than 2 people. Whereas
Mhm.
if you get a small group of people, you can not only give feedback, get feedback, and also everybody can participate, and you can spend more time with each person. So, but you also do that because we're going to touch on
Mhm.
2 things. You have a Substack, which I'm
Yep.
relatively new to Substack, and you and I are friends on Substack. So talk about your Substack, please. And then also you have something you call Tea Time, which is an audiobook workout as well.
Right. So I have a Substack where I write primarily about audiobook and narration, but it's also useful for writers too. And then I have one that I do for just my own writing. But in that, I talk about things that I thought were obvious in the industry, and then people were telling me that they weren't obvious. So etiquette, things that you should do, shouldn't do, exploring all of that. And then I've just started this once a month. I'm offering a tea time where I have a group of people, everyone signs up, and we have it's just for an hour, and someone reads for 2 minutes, and then the whole class gives feedback. And the reason why is because I think it makes you a different kind of listener. You have to listen differently when you're giving feedback. And you're also training yourself so when you're listening to others, you can hear things, right? And then you can apply that to yourself when you're in the booth.
hmm
So I find it very, very valuable.
It is. And I think listening with that ear for
hmm
having to give advice is huge because, as you mentioned, we're in the booth all day long just giving ourselves self-direction. So nobody's listening to us except ourselves, and it's really hard to give yourself self-direction. We do it because we
Yeah.
have to, but when you have to listen to somebody else and then give them feedback, it forces you, it trains you to listen for those subtle things that is going to make that read better for that person, and it can't help but make you a better narrator as well. No
Right.
question.
And I also think it makes you think like a casting director, which I think is very helpful for narrators. And so if you think about it, like when you sit in on a class and you hear all these great people, well, what if they were all auditioning for you? Who would you choose? Um, and sometimes you might choose someone uh, for a thriller, but not choose them for YA. So it teaches you all sorts of things, which is why I really think that classes um, are extremely important, especially for people breaking into the business, but also for us people who are established.
Yeah. And I've always said I think the two biggest things that I've noticed when people that I've coached and worked with in workouts is typically almost everybody goes too fast because we're
Right.
nervous. All right. So
Right.
just slow down, let the lines breathe. And understanding that emotion underneath the lines, I think, is such a good skill set to have and a very difficult one to get right, is to feel the feeling that is underneath the line. And that's probably the biggest takeaway I've gotten from the master classes I participated in is being able to lean into that emotion underneath. And even in the narrative, I just did a TikTok post about it recently about even the narrative piece, because it was something I picked up in the master class as well, is when you're doing the narration part versus the dialogue, that sometimes we just let go of it. I know we're kind of getting a little bit into the weeds, but this is fun, is that sometimes we let go of the emotion during the narration part and pick it back
Mm-hmm.
up during the dialogue. And that even if you're narrating, depending on the POV, you still have to bring the emotion to that narrative piece so you don't lose the listener. And those are the
Right.
subtleties that I just love to kind of roll up my
Me
sleeves and
too.
dig
And
into.
I had a realization. Um, my husband and I, we watch On Patrol Live, OPL, and lots of true crime. I just really like it. But watching it, I realized that there's a lot of people who lie.
Mm,
Like that was mind blowing to me. But when I realized that, I took that into the booth with the idea that n not every character is going to tell the truth. So even if they're telling you something on one level, there could be a whole bunch of stuff underneath it. Or you can say something that's truthful, but you can say it in a way that reflects your real feelings. And I find that that's subtext, right? So
yeah.
I find that really fun to play with. And it was something that I hadn't thought of before.
Isn't that fascinating? I mean, we
Hmm.
never stop learning in this industry, which is one of the things I love about it.
Right. And you can watch something like a cop show and apply it to narration.
Sure. Yeah, we should be taking notes all day in our notebooks every at the post office. Like, wait a minute, what did they
Right.
say? How did they say
Right.
that? We constantly, I think understanding human nature is part of our job, because we
Hmm.
never know where we're going to be able to apply it in whatever books that we're doing. Um, which is what's so much fun about audiobooks is we never know what the next book is always going to be. It's always different. Every day is different for us, which is fascinating. Um, let's talk a little bit about your author world. You've
Hmm.
written a memoir, you've written a number of other different genre books. So what's that been like?
I mean, I got into narration because of storytelling. Love the sound of words out loud. Um, Recently found out that I'm autistic, which makes so much sense in how writing has helped me understand the world and people and emotions. It gives me time to process it. And it's also why stories really, really helped me and have helped me through my whole life. I forgot the first part of the question. I knew that would happen.
No, I just wanted to know what that journey's been like. What the writing of the memoir in particular, I think
Oh,
was very
yeah.
emotional and very personal.
Yeah, so writing has been the main focus of my life, and it's grown out from that. And I'm always trying different things. The memoir was a really great exercise in writing for me. I wanted to be completely honest, which is very hard because when you're totally truthful, you might say things about yourself that is not doesn't
Mm,
align with a hero's journey, right?
right.
Um, and then I also gave myself a rule in the memoir to only tell the story as much as I could through dialogue because I get kind of overwhelmed sometimes by memoir because of all of the thinking. Um, so yeah, that was fun and very satisfying. That's probably the piece I'm proudest of. I did a rom-com series that sold really well. I really liked the comedy in it, but struggled with the plot because of the relationships, which I understand now because of the whole autism thing. Um, and then I like dark stories. I'm kind of a bubbly person, but I really am drawn to very dark and scary stories. So I've been working on scary stories lately, which has been fun.
Mm. So writing is still a part of your life. You're writing. on a
all the time.
regular basis.
Yeah, kind of obsessively about it. But yeah, again with autism, many people will have something that they're extremely interested in. Dinosaurs, buttons, whatever. Mine happens to be stories.
Mm,
So I'm either telling a story, reading a story, or writing a story or
mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
every day.
That's interesting because your autism really led you to this life that is
Exactly.
actually
And this
perfect for you.
is the most perfect job for me. I had, before I found this, I had the longest job I had was teaching. But again, that was all story focused.
Hmm.
But before that, I jumped from job to job and just really, really struggled to find my place. So,
Yeah.
and I
It's,
found it.
yeah, I mean, it's perfect. It's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are narrators are also writers, and I think also there are
Hmm.
writers that also are narrators and or want or one or the other and want to be one or the other.
Hmm.
Because I've always been fascinated with writing, which is even why I started my own Substack was just because I've been interested in the world of writing, but never went in that direction educationally or even as a hobby. But it's always been something that's always been in the back of my mind that it would be enjoyable. So it makes sense that since I love reading and I love narrating, that I would want that would be an interest, an itch that I want to scratch. But
Hmm.
um, like anything else, those things begin with an idea and it's a journey, and you realize to do it at a certain level is going to require a lot of work. So we have to choose our direction and how much time we have in our day. And I've never really, other than doing screenwriting, which I have done, and
Hmm.
that other than that, I haven't really. That's the only scratching of the itch that I've done with that. But I'm always fascinated by people who are writers because I think it's a skill set that is very difficult to do well. So
Right.
I admire the fact that you're able to do it and do it well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. One of the traditions on our podcast is that we like to end by leaving the listeners with a single golden nugget of advice from our guest. So, for you, if you were sitting across from an aspiring audiobook narrator, what would that single piece of advice be?
Um, I think it would be to assume you're worthy. I think that mindset could be really transformative for a lot of people because there's so much doubt and fear and vulnerability in trying new things. Like if I to do accomplish all the things that I have, the narration, the writing, casting, moving into new positions, meeting new people, it's all fearful. And if I didn't think that I was good enough, it would stop me from trying all those things. So I would say, assume that you're worthy and that you are good enough to do this, if that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about faking till you make it. It's about, no, no,
No,
you're assuming that you're good enough. And
it's a
I,
rootedness. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I love that. I'm most of the time on my social media, I'll always sign off by saying, wherever you are on your journey, keep going. I believe in you. You got this. Because I really
Mm.
think that the, having children, the one of the foremost important words you can say is I believe in you to your children because we all need somebody to believe in us, right? And so even if I don't know somebody, but they hear me say I believe in you, I think it will help them just to hear those
Hmm.
words. And I think that what you're saying is very similar in the sense that you you need to assume that you're good enough.
Right. So you're saying, I believe in me.
Yeah.
So you're saying I believe in you, but it is an internal thing. I believe I can do this.
Yep. As Maria Forleo says, who's a business coach, everything is figure outable. You can do this. You just got to set your mind to it. And Tanya, you are somebody who has done that and has been doing that consistently in many different areas of your life. And it was really wonderful that we got to meet on
Yeah.
Masterclass and connect, and to have you on as a guest on the podcast has been really, really been a treat. Where before we leave,
Hmm.
if people want to reach out to you and find you, I know you said you have a Substack. Where
Hmm.
would they find you? Where's the best way to find Tanya?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Substack, and if you just search for Tanya Eby, EBY, you'll find me there. I'm on Threads too. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with my listeners. And I wish you continued success on your amazing journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOPodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast.